Hi, this is Charles Duhigg, the author of The Power of Habit, doing a lunch and learn on Instagram Live to talk about habits and how we remain sane during the coronavirus and quarantine. And I would love to answer your questions. So send them in. And in the meantime, I'll talk a little bit about what we know about how our habits work and how we can use them in order to stay a little bit more sane and healthy during this period. So here's what we know about habits. A habit is a cue, a routine, and a reward. And that's important because when our surroundings and our life becomes a little bit destabilized, like it is right now, what happens is that our cues are thrown out of whack. We don't have the same prompts or the same triggers around us in order to try and have all the habits that we had previously. Like this morning, I was supposed to go and I was supposed to exercise, and I did not do that. And the reason I did not do that is because I didn't have my normal cues around me that are supposed to help me do that. But more importantly, it's also because it's a really hard time. Because I woke up and it seemed like everything was falling apart, and my kids needed me to help them figure out like how to get on the computer so they could do their school. And so when we don't have those normal cues around us, that's when the habits that we used to rely on, that's when they start to break down. And it's really important that we pay attention to that and we find accommodations. I'm gonna put in my earpieces because I'm saying. And the reason why this is important is because right now you're probably staying at home and you're worried and there's things going on that are making it harder and harder for you to do the things that you want to do, that you're used to doing, that used to come easy to you. And so the question is, how do we keep those healthy habits in our life? Well, the first thing is just to know it's okay. Like, it might be hard right now. You might find yourself at wit's ends. It might be that you used to be able to exercise and it wasn't a big deal, and now you're struggling to do so. That is okay. You should be gentle with yourself, and you should understand this is not your fault. This is just part of a big upheaval, a big change that always happens whenever something in society changes. But how do we fix it? Well, the most important thing is to choose cues and then give ourselves a reward. Now, it might have been that you used to go for a long run after work. You'd come home, kick off your work clothes, you'd change, you'd go for a run, you'd come back, you'd have a nice glass of wine and you relax. That was the reward that was pushing that exercise habit. And now, maybe that's changed, right? Because you're not leaving the house to go to work anymore. When you come home, you're at home to begin with, all your routines are thrown off, and you don't have those normal rewards there to encourage you to exercise. So what you have to do is you just have to choose a new cue and a new reward. The night before, you should sit down and you say, okay, if I'm going to exercise tomorrow, what is the cue that's going to get me to get out of the house and go for a run? I'm going to stay 6 feet away from everyone else on the planet, but I am going to go for a run, or I'm going to just walk around the block, or I'm going to do something because I know I'm going to be crazy. Maybe it's that you set an alarm on your watch. Maybe it's that you put your running shoes next to the door. Maybe it's that you know at 4:30 you're going to change into your running clothes. Even if you don't go out for a run, you're just going to change. And then ahead of time, choose what reward you're going to give yourself as soon as you do that task. And no matter what, give yourself the reward. Maybe your plan is that you want to run 2 miles and you get outside and you realize this is just too much for me. I can only walk 2 blocks. That is fine. Walk 2 blocks, go home and have a nice glass of wine or a smoothie or a nice long shower, or ask your spouse, it's time for like a little bit of like love. Do whatever you need in order to give yourself that reward, because that means that your brain is going to remember it for next time. And the next time that you want to go out running, it's going to be easier because you have chosen a reward ahead of time. We can build new habits. We can actually use this time to become healthier, better people. The key is to choose those cues and those rewards ahead of time. Now let me see if there's any questions. And I'm going to apologize in advance because here's one. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, one thing I've noticed already is finding it hard to motivate myself. Even just sitting and reading a book for more than a few minutes feels impossible. That's from Alicia's books. Alicia, I totally agree with you. I feel the same way. When you don't leave your house, it is really hard to motivate, right? Procrastination is this problem. In fact, I have a podcast called How To with Charles Duhigg. And the episode today is about how to stay sane in quarantine. The episode next Tuesday is about how to avoid procrastination. And what we know is that if you're having trouble motivating, Here's what you should do. Number one, it's okay to be gentle with yourself and say, look, motivation is going to be harder when you're at home. But here's what I'd like you to do. Instead of saying, I want to sit down and I want to read an entire book for 45 minutes or an hour, just say, I'm going to read a book for the next 10 minutes. And at the end of that 10 minutes, I'm going to give myself a reward. Maybe I'm going to go eat some ice cream. Maybe I'm going to check Facebook. Whatever it is, decide what that reward is ahead of time and start working up your tolerance to be able to focus. Because much like everything else, being able to focus, being able to remain motivated, particularly when there's so much that can cause us anxieties, it is a thing that we have to develop into a habit. It's a thing that we get out of practice with. It's a thing that's hard to relearn when suddenly we're staying at home all day. But you can do it. We know from study after study, if you find the reward to motivate you, it makes it easier. Some of you are asking where I am. I'm actually in like an office. I decided to use the hip and cool background behind me, which is just an exposed wall to show you how cool I am. Okay, so someone said, I wish I had ice cream. Love it. You should go get some ice cream. Well, don't go to the grocery store, but next time you put in a grocery order, get some ice cream, or if you're going to the grocery store. And Tralara Rowena says, I have anxiety and sometimes it is really difficult to focus. I totally agree. And look, you should go ahead and do what you have learned to do to manage your anxiety. I mean, one of the best things that you can do, and this is key, is to talk to other people. It is so isolating to be home right now. And it's really easy to fall out of a lot of patterns that we have that are based on the cue of other people, right? We're used to talking to other people all day long. And if you don't have those people in your life, it's very easy to fall off of all the patterns that were keeping you mentally healthy previously and physically healthy. So here's what you need to do. Schedule phone calls with your friends, right? It's not going to happen organically. Email them and say, look, I would really like to talk to you at 3:00 today. Let's schedule a phone call. Let's schedule a video chat over Zoom or FaceTime or Skype. Let's find some time to talk to each other. And then when you do, tell them what you are concerned about. Tell them about your anxieties. Because one of the best ways to help us deal with those anxieties is just to be able to let it out. In part because we're lacking control right now. Human beings have this innate desire to feel like we're in control of our lives and our surroundings. And when we don't have that, it can be really, really frustrating and really anxiety producing. And so this is the other thing. In addition to scheduling time to talk to your friends and to talk to other people, find one thing you can control. If you're sharing your house with your family, as I am with 2 children and my wife, it's a little crowded. What you should do is you should go find some part of the house that is your part of the house. And say to everyone, nobody else can come and put their stuff here. Nobody else can come. If I'm in my room and the door is closed, you cannot come in. We all need privacy. We need a sense of control. And so it's really important to find that and give that to yourself, particularly when you can't leave as easily. Someone asked, Susan ECW asked, is now the time to start a new habit or more about focusing on keeping old habits? It's a great question, Susan. And what I would say is, it kind of depends where your head is at, right? I think for most of us, just keeping our old habits is work enough on its own. It's hard right now. Like, it doesn't feel like it should be so hard just to be at home, and yet it is. You know that it is. You know that you're feeling anxious every single day. You know that you're feeling just confused. You know that you're just worried. So I think just maintaining the habits that you like, that are important to you, that is enough on of its own. Now that being said, it is also an opportunity to create new habits. One of the things that we know from studies is that it's easier to create new habits when our environment changes. So for instance, one of the things that, if anyone there is listening is a smoker, one of the things that you know is that your doctor will often tell you, try and quit smoking when you go on vacation. Because when you go on vacation, you're suddenly in a new environment, and all those old cues that made you pick up cigarettes previously, some of them are gone, and so it's easier to give them up. And so this is kind of like that. It's an opportunity to start some new habits. But I want to emphasize, you should not feel an obligation to do that. Just making it through this period with our wits intact, that is accomplishment enough. And you don't need to hold yourself to any higher standard besides just making it through this. Kate W. Tyler asks, how about exercise habits? Now is a great time for exercise habits because we're home and it's really hard to get that walking that we normally would do just as part of our day out and about. So what should you do? Well, the number one thing you should do is you should definitely choose what reward you're going to give yourself after you start exercising. So if you go out and you walk around the block, what are you going to give yourself afterwards? Are you going to give yourself some ice cream? Are you going to give yourself a nice long shower? Are you going to give yourself 20 minutes or an hour to watch Netflix? Choose that reward ahead of time. And then choose a cue, put your running clothes on at 4:30 in the afternoon, cue up the yoga video so that at 5 o'clock, all you have to do is press play and you're ready to go. And then it does not matter how much or little you do, give yourself the reward afterward. Your ambition might have been to run 2 miles and you only end up running 4 blocks. That is fine. Give yourself the reward, and it's going to be easier to run farther and farther tomorrow and the next day. Maria Spotlight says, my kids are at home. Nevertheless, I try to keep my habits in writing books. Number 3 will be available soon in English. Hey, congratulations, Maria. That's fantastic. B. Ulmer says, will we all get screen addicted? Look, here's the nice thing. Habits they feel like you can be trapped by them, right? Like, I have the same thing. Like, my kids are watching literally 5 times as much television as they normally watch every single day. And I feel terrible about it. But you know what? It's okay. Because if they're developing a habit around TV when we're in quarantine, it's going to disappear when we're not in quarantine. And there is going to be a day that we are no longer in quarantine. And that's important, right? There's going to be a time when this ends. Hopefully soon. Maybe it'll take a couple of months. Who knows? But this will end. And so the behavior decisions you're making right now, you don't have to worry that you're going to carry them forever. It's very unique to this situation, to these sets of cues. It'll fade, and you can give yourself the permission to go ahead and be the person you need to be right now. Let's see. Once Upon a Book 14 says hi. Hi, Once Upon a Book. Let's see. Let me look. There's more questions here. Any advice on trying to publish a book? From Malibu Crumb 6933. Man, well, we got some time to be writing, right? The number one thing for publishing a book is just write the book. So if you have some extra time now because you're not going out, or if you need something to distract you in the middle of the day, start working on that fantasy novel you've been thinking about. Dragons? Go dragons, man. Or start working on that self-help book. Or just sit down and type. I mean, what's really interesting is, so we have this thing with our kids where we make them, and we never did this before because we're not great parents previously, apparently, but we make them sit down and we make them journal every morning for 10 minutes. And part of the reason why is because we need something for them to do so they don't drive us crazy. But the other reason is because we are living through a kind of amazing thing, right? This is a weird time and an anxiety-producing time, and writing can release that anxiety, but also you're going to want to remember this. So if you want to write a book, just sit down and write. Now is the best time to work through all those bad words you got to get out of your system before you can get to the good ones. Let's see. CLC Travel says, I always complain about not having time to write. Now there's no excuse. That's exactly right. Let's see. Oh, Teresa4018 says, I guess that's 4018. How many days to create a habit loop? That is a great question. So here's what we know. If you want to start a habit involving chocolate ice cream, you could probably do it in a day, maybe even less. If you want to start a habit involving training for a marathon, it might take a little bit longer. And that's okay. That's exactly how habits are supposed to work. There is no hard and fast rule for how long it takes to build a habit loop. But I will tell you this, if you have that cue, that routine, that reward, if you choose a cue, if you give yourself a reward after you do that hard thing, it will get easier each time you do it. That's the magic of the habit loop. You might not even notice at first that it's easier to go out for a run the 3rd time than it was the 1st time. But by the 12th time, you definitely notice that it's easier. You definitely notice that it's become more automatic. Please share your name. My name is Charles Duhigg. Is that what you mean? Andy Ward 15 says, how do I stop eating blondies all day? Literally all day. Now I'm going to tell you something. Andy Ward 15 is actually someone that I know. He's someone who has a dear place in my heart. He is also strangely fit for a man who eats blondies all day long. And so I'm going to tell Andy Ward 15, it ain't going to happen. You're going to eat those blondies, man. Just lean into it. I want to see a round, plump Andy Ward 15 at the end of quarantine. That's how I will know that you have enjoyed this period. Staceface2483 says, how long does it take to break bad habits, stress eating, etc.? There is no hard and fast rule for how long, but let me tell you how to start. Sit down and diagnose the bad habit. What is the cue that's getting you to eat too much? You said it's stress eating. So let's figure that out. Do you feel like you need to eat when you feel like you're out of control? Is it because you can't go outside and you don't know what's going on and so you feel a lack of control? Is that the cue? Or is it because you're bored, because you have nothing going on? Or is it because you feel just suddenly like anxious and depressed and you know that eating is going to make you feel better? Figure out what the cue is. And then once you've diagnosed it, then figure out, okay, what am I going to do next time that delivers some kind of reward similar to what stress eating used to deliver for me? So maybe it's that when you eat, you're drawn towards carbs, right? Because we know that carbs kind of make us feel satiated. What else do you eat that makes you feel satiated? What else do you eat that makes you feel comfortable? My guess is that probably there are other things besides carbs, like for instance, fruit. I notice that like when I want to eat pasta, if I eat an apple, it actually fulfills that same need. It tastes sweet, and it kind of reminds me of being young, and it feels healthy. It feels the same way, the same sense of comfort that I get from eating an apple that I get from eating carbohydrates, and an apple is healthier for me. Figure out what that stress eating is giving you specifically as a reward, and then try and find one other thing that's a different routine but delivers a similar reward. Sarah Becca Cox says, I'm trying to break my habit of constantly working late into the night. I guess I need a Q plus habit to force me to break out of work mode. Sarah, that is exactly right. Here's what you definitely need. If you're sitting at home all day, and I'm sitting at home all day long, you literally could work all the time because there's no difference now between your bedroom and your office, right? That's the great thing about going to work used to give us. It gave us a sense of remove and space so that we knew when the workday ended, and we don't have that anymore. So it means that you have to decide when the workday ends. And the way that you do that is you just say, okay, at 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock, whatever it is, I am turning off the work parts of my computer. I'm closing the computer. I'm gonna go have a glass of wine, because I know that any emails I send after having a glass of wine are literally gonna be like totally crazy, so I should not send any emails. I'm gonna make it impossible for myself to work. And that way you learn to relax. And you really have to relax every day, because otherwise it's gonna be really hard. Alden Robinson says, any new official Minecraft books coming out soon? Alden, I hate to break it to you. I have nothing to do with Minecraft books. I love Minecraft books, I guess. My kids read them, but I have no idea. Alexandra Puja Delanry says, I binge when bored or having a timeout. What can I do? I assume you mean binge reading? Or I'm sorry, binge eating? I don't exactly know what, again, it's the same basic thing. Diagnose what that cue is. Like, what is causing you to do that activity, that behavior that you don't like? And most importantly, what reward is it giving you? And then find some just new behavior that you think delivers a similar reward. And it might be hard at first. It might take a couple of experiments to figure out if you're getting it right. Maybe for you, if you're like looking for comfort food and you're craving carbs and instead you have an apple, maybe it doesn't work for you. It works for me, but maybe it doesn't work for you. Maybe for you, it's that you have to have something completely different. You have to have frozen blueberries, which have like a really high sugar content and they taste really good. And so as a result, they're actually better than carbohydrates in some ways, like pasta. Or maybe it's that you need something just to help you relax. Like you need to ask your spouse or your partner, like, I need a 10-minute massage because I'm feeling tense and I need you to help me just relax. But if you diagnose the cue and find what is triggering that behavior and figure out what reward that behavior you don't like is delivering to you, you can find something else that delivers that same reward or something similar, but is healthier and better. Let's see. I'm looking here. You guys might notice I'm not really great at Instagram. I don't really know how to do this, but A.M. Healy asks, I don't feel anything, not anxious, not afraid, am I normal? That's a really good question. So look, for many of us, like day-to-day life doesn't actually seem that different right now, right? You're not going to your office, maybe you're working from home, but you look around and I live in Brooklyn, it's a beautiful day today. Let me just show you. Look, it's gorgeous out there, right? Like, it's very easy to feel like nothing has changed and to try and wonder like, why should I be freaked out? And for others of us, we look outside and we say like, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Why can't I just enjoy this day? And I am freaked out. I'm so anxious. I feel so uptight. And the answer is, It's okay, whatever you're feeling. This is a weird time. There is no script for how we're supposed to behave. There is only all of us working together to support each other to try and figure out what is the right thing to do. And if you're feeling fine and you're not afraid and you're not anxious, I feel so happy for you. And if you are feeling anxious and you're thinking to yourself, what is going on and what's going on with the economy and with our health, then it is okay. This is a time when whatever you are feeling is a legitimate thing to feel, and we just have to be there for each other, and we will make it through. Okay, let's see. I think I have time for a couple more questions. KDD 717 says, I'm calm during the day, but right before I go to sleep, the panic sets in. Is there a post-bedtime habit you have that can help? Yes. Okay, so let me tell you what I've been doing. I've been listening to a meditation app. Actually, my wife puts it on when we're going to bed, and I have a rule. I do not read any news after 8 o'clock at night. Like, I don't check the New York Times or the Washington Post before I fall asleep. I get into bed, I read something fun, like some stupid science fiction or like a magazine article that has nothing to do with going on. I let myself just kind of forget about what's happening. And then my wife puts on this meditation app and we fall asleep. Decide when you're going to cut off the news, because the news is going to make you anxious right now. And you don't need more than 30 minutes of news a day. Honestly, you really don't. Let's see. Canadian Book Owl says, I'm very anxious and worried with this pandemic, but I continue to work on my children's book. Canadian Book Owl, that is fantastic. That is exactly what we should be doing. We are going to come out the other side. This has happened dozens of times in recent history, right? And it feels awful when we're in it, but someday it is going to end. We're going to get back to our normal lives, and you are going to look back and you are going to be so proud of yourself for the fact that you were able to keep things together and going and work on your children's book or whatever you're working on during this period. It's going to end someday. One more question. Let's see. Ali Elhim says, hello from Iran. Ali, it is great to hear from you. I hope you are doing well. Craze for Pause says, thumbs up. Hey, Craze, right back at you. And then let's see. Let me look. One more. Any advice? Oh, this is from JZucker83. Any advice on dealing with overcoming an all or nothing mentality and following through with goals? One mistake tends to derail the plan. That is a great question. And this isn't true just right now, right? This happens all the time. Humans have this thing called a need for cognitive closure or completion. That we crave so much getting something done that when we feel like we can't get it done, we tend to just throw everything out. And so here's what you should do. Break that plan into small little bits. Take something that's going to take a week, and I want you to break it into 20 pieces. I want you to tell me what you're going to do the first hour you start working on that goal. And that way, let's say the first hour goes pretty well and the second hour doesn't go so great, that's fine. Like, you have 19 other things to work on this goal. It's okay. You get another shot at the hoop. You can take another swing. Look, for a long time, I was interested in what happened during periods of great economic change. And so I was reading diaries from people who had lived through the Great Depression and the Industrial Revolution and other periods, the 1918 flu pandemic. And what's interesting is that if you look at those diaries, everyone was anxious. Like, even people who were super successful, even people who became millionaires during those periods, or people who made it through just fine or wrote great works of art, they were anxious. It is okay to be anxious. We should not expect too much from ourselves right now. It is okay to give yourself some self-care. We are going to make it through this. Life is going to get back to normal. This is an opportunity for you to be with your families, to just relax, to build some habits you've always wanted to build, or to continue some habits that you've always wanted to continue, or to let some habits go. It's okay not to exercise right now. It's okay to watch too much TV. This is going to end and life is going to get back to normal and all your old habits are going to snap back into place. If your kids are watching too much TV right now, do not worry about it. That doesn't mean they're going to watch TV for the rest of their life. It means they're going to watch TV right now when we're in quarantine, And instead of driving you crazy, they're going to watch Netflix. And that is okay. We will make it through this together. I promise, as long as we are there for each other. I hope all of you stay safe. You're all in my prayers. If you have any questions or any problems, all you have to do is email me. I'm at charles@charlesduhigg.com. I promise I will respond to every single email that you send me. Send your questions, send your comments, charles@charlesduhigg.com. Every single one of you who emails me will get a response. If you're looking for advice, I have a podcast called How To with Charles Duhigg. We just released an episode about staying sane in quarantine. We've got an episode coming up about how to stop procrastinating. And we've done some episodes in the past about the pandemic and how to make sense of it. But most importantly, find someone to reach out to, whether you live with them or there's someone you can call. Tell them that you love them. Tell them that you are there for them, and they will be there for you, and we will make it through this together. Thank you. Stay safe.